women speak differently than men. That men speak more powerfully, not all men and not all women, but the linguists and the studies on this are pretty convincing. All right? So men speak more directly, more powerfully. They don't put phrases like I think and maybe, right? And women, no matter what their education level, speak more equivocally. I'm not sure about this, but I think the answer is, right? I'm not an expert in this, but what I think is, right? Have you noticed it? Right? That women don't speak as powerfully. And so there was a jury study. And they looked at transcripts of 3 months' worth of jury trials in North Carolina, a state in the South. And then they asked jurors, based on these transcripts, how it affected, like, which were the witnesses that they believed. And it turns out that the witnesses that spoke more powerfully were considered more believable and more competent. And the witnesses, many of them women, who spoke less powerfully were not considered to be as believable and as knowledgeable. The fact of the matter is, it was all a perception, because it didn't really have to do with how much they knew or how much they saw or how sure they were about what they saw. It was all in the manner of delivery. And so what we notice, and what the linguists have noticed, is that men and women talk differently. And Deborah Tannen, who's a linguist out of Georgetown, did this very interesting study of women in meetings. And she would have women, you know, she'd tape record women in meetings at all levels of their careers. And then she'd listen to the same thing happen over and over again. And what it was that women would come up with ideas, and then a man would say the same idea, and then he would get credit for it, right? And the reason it happened is because when the women came up with their ideas, they came up with them in a very timid way. So they'd say, well, I'm not sure about this, but I'm thinking maybe what we should do is X. And the men would say, what we should do is X, right? Now, both of them probably had the same amount of confidence in the answer, but the men were able to state it more powerfully. And then what happens when you ask people in the meeting who had the idea, everybody thinks the man had the idea because he said it more powerfully. So this thing that, you know, that the researchers have showed us happened on the witness stand also happens to us at meetings. So one of the things I'd ask all of you to think about the next time you're at a meeting, or whenever anyone asks your opinion about something, is, are there a lot of words that come out of your mouth before the opinion, right? Do you start by apologizing? Well, I'm sorry, I disagree with you, but what I think is, right? Why would we apologize for stating our opinions, right? But we do, right? I mean, sometimes we apologize for all sorts of things for which we're not responsible, right? So think about and just watch people and see if that's true for you, that there's a difference in the way that the genders speak. And if you are one of those people that are speaking more powerfully and with more certainty and with more confidence, then good for you, because that's the kind of speech that gets recognized. And on the other hand, if as you listen to yourself and you watch other people, you find that you're speaking less powerfully, that you're putting feelings into your opinion, that you're, you know, adding what we call equivocators, or things that make it maybe true, right? And if you're doing that, lose them. Get rid of them. Learn to speak without them. And, you know, in Western linguistics, the way that we know that something's a question is that our voice goes up at the end of the sentence, right? Are you going to the store? right? And it's the same in French. We know it's a question because it goes up. But sometimes we as women will make statements that sound like questions. Dinner's at 6, as opposed to dinner is at 6. Right? So that's another thing that we can watch about ourselves. Are we stating facts that sound like questions? Because if we are, that's awfully confusing. And when we think about, moving all this to our negotiation, it's going to make us sound less sure of ourselves. So one of the great things about this, about understanding the way we speak, is that we have the rest of our lives to change it, to do course corrections. I still have to rewrite emails. Sometimes if I'm writing an email to someone, and emails are great because you actually get the opportunity to edit them, right? Or I'll look and I'll realize that I've put all sorts of equivocal language in it. And I have to take it out. It still is what comes naturally. Now, why do we do it? Are we as a gender just defective? No. No. The reason we do it is that there are stereotypes, there are ways of behaving that we're all taught, men and women, are the acceptable ways for us to behave. And for women, we're taught that we're supposed to be team players. We're supposed to always be looking out for someone else, right? We're supposed to be kind and not hurt people's feelings and not be too demanding, right? Does anybody feel like that's at all? Now, it doesn't mean that's the way you turned out, and you may have consciously decided that wasn't going to be your entire persona. And men are taught to be more direct and to be more confident and to assert themselves. Now, it doesn't mean every man can do that, and it doesn't mean that every time a man does that, it's the right thing to do, right? But we're just working on stereotypes now. And the thing that I want you to understand about stereotypes is they limit all of us. Stereotypes get in the way for all of us reaching our full potential. So I want to show you some research that proves that, so you don't have to take my word for it. So here's our agenda for today. These are the questions I hope that we will discuss. Why am I so obsessed with negotiation skills, right? Why is it so important? And then, when does gender matter? When does it matter? When doesn't it matter? How is our career progress affected by our ability to negotiate? Really? If we don't negotiate, something different is going to happen in our careers? Yes. So, I'm a very practical person. If there are obstacles in the way, I want to know what they are, and then I want to figure out a way around them, right? I have no interest in complaining. I have no interest in the woe is me, poor women conversations, because that's just a waste of everybody's emotional energy. So I go to the next step, which is, so what are these obstacles? And what do we need to do about them? And why can't we just ignore them and really hope everything gets better? Right? You might want to ask that. If we just wait, we have progress, we all evolve, and maybe if we just wait for good things to happen, they will. All right, so what is negotiating? It's sort of a funny word. For me, it brings out the warm and fuzzy feelings. Negotiation for me is a word that just makes me do a little happy dance. But I understand for everyone else, they don't have the same reaction to the word. And in fact, some women and some men, when you say the word negotiate, they just sort of stand up a little straighter, their stomach starts to hurt, right? And they think, how could this be a word that makes you do a happy dance when it makes me want to throw up, right? And some of it is because of what we think about as negotiation, right? We think about negotiation like what happens in the movies, right? Which is competitive, combative, that, I win, you lose. Because it's great for the movies because that's really dramatic. And if they filmed real negotiations, They'd take a really long time and they wouldn't be nearly as dramatic, but they'd find out that a lot of different things happen. And one of the most amazing things that happen in many negotiations is that instead of people spitting at each other and trying to crush each other and hoping that the other person makes a mistake so they can leap on it, many negotiations are actually about people listening to each other. People actually saying, so what is it that's most important to you out of this? Like, what do you want to get out of this? What's most important to you and why? Help me understand. I mean, can you imagine that being a question in a negotiation? It's the best question you could ask. Help me understand what you want. And I will help you understand what I want. And if we're both really clever, we might be able to figure out something that's good for both of us. Now, can you do that all the time? No. But you can do it way more often than you think. I teach a negotiation class at Carnegie Mellon University, and sometimes it takes me the whole semester to convince my students that negotiations are not purely aggressive events. They're not sports events where, you know, the last person to stand wins. It's not like Survivor where the last person on the island wins. And sometimes when they get stuck, I say, okay, let's pretend this class had a different name. Let's pretend the class was called Creative Problem Solving. If the class was called Creative Problem Solving, would you be approaching this situation any differently? And they say, well, yeah. All right, then do it, right? Because negotiation and creative problem solving can be the same thing, right? So part of why negotiation for some of us makes us feel like we want to throw up is because we have a view of it that doesn't begin to embrace what it involves. Also, I'm thinking of negotiation with a small n. And by that I mean not just I'm here to talk about my raise, right? That's a hard one, right? But I'm here to talk about, you know, I think that we need to negotiate the timeline for this next project. I have put a lot of thought into looking at this timeline and the amount of staff that's available, and it occurs to me that, that's a little equivocal, and I've learned that the timeline isn't realistic. So I want you to consider adding another month onto this timeline, because then we will have a better quality product. Our workforce won't all die out of exhaustion, and we won't worry about quality control issues because we're working faster than we should be.